Hello and welcome to part one of a very special retro edition of Games4all Extra. Today basically we're going to be talking about some of the games we played when we grew up, the consoles that came out, and maybe a bit more detail like the history of video game and a little bit, not delve into too much of it, but obviously we're going to do this in a two-part show. First part's going up now, obviously, as you're watching it, and the second part should go up next week.
Yes.
So, enjoy. Title. So in this day and age of HD graphics, multi-channel surround sound, downloadable content, photorealism, thank you. You know, it's interesting to look back at some of the games that, you know, we played as kids, and in fact it's quite funny really, because a lot of these games are now, you know, find their way back to consoles these days, like as part of remakes or reboots or reimaginings.
And I think it's important to say that we are of the generation, sort of like 8-bit and onwards. It's kind of like the golden age of games.
Absolutely,
really.
Absolutely. So, I mean, between us, we've got something like 40 plus years worth of gaming.
Shut the fuck up.
Experience. Yeah, sad. So, first of all, let's go way back to even before we were born, before we were playing games. The first ever don't do that. The first ever video games console that came out in the early 70s was the Magnavox Odyssey. Now, this thing was a beast. I'm lying. It is important to kind of talk about though, because it's the first ever home video games console. Very basic. It was just kind of like blocks on a screen. It did Pong brilliantly, but you know, they kind of tried to shoehorn other things in there. There's a thing you stuck on the screen, like clear plastic, to kind of create the backgrounds and stuff, so you can kind of use your imagination a little bit. But you know, that's kind of where it all started, though.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, I wish I had one. I really do. So it's footage of that going up now. So
you can pick up various machines that play Pong.
Yeah, I think I do have one somewhere, but I have to dust it off. But obviously, things have moved on a lot since then. You know, power and complexity and, you know, popularity of gaming, in fact, has changed in all those years.
A new dimension for your television, now at your Magnavox dealer. He's listed in the yellow pages.
I actually do remember having an Atari 2600, and I think that came out in like 1977.
Yeah.
We've seen Star Wars. I didn't add that in, but anyway. And, you know, playing games like Cuba and the really horrible port of Pac-Man.
Oh, God,
it just looked bloody awful. But that's what Atari were into. They were trying to kind of, you know, take very popular arcade games and bring them to the kind of home, but doing it kind of unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
And that pretty much sums up the Atari 2600. But probably the most infamous game that came out on that console was E.T.
We will not mention that.
Cut to when we were born, 1984. We were both born in that year. Big year for Nintendo. They released the
Femidom.
the Famicom, which
That's the one.
Yeah, whatever, which later became known as the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, which is
much better name.
Yes, definitely. Well done. So yeah, I mean, basically, Nintendo had a whole bunch of really cool arcade games. They were able to kind of bring them into the home with this 8-bit beast that was known as the NES, with massive cartridges, and obviously games like Super Mario Bros, Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Super Mario Bros for you, for most people, is a big game.
The NES was the first home console I ever played. That was my first experience of gaming, was playing Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt.
Yes, Duck Hunt.
Another infamous game.
Absolutely.
Fucking dog.
I mean, Mario pretty much. I mean, Nintendo Mario responsible for kind of the platforming game as we later.
Yeah.
And
Mario is still a staple of that. I mean, the game
Absolutely.
in itself has changed very little
True.
since back
Very
then.
true, yeah.
They've all got the same story, everything. It's just like the graphics and things. But even the gameplay
Still,
hasn't
it's so
changed
fun
that
though
much.
that you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
It just
doesn't
goes to
ruin
show it. And I think it's happening a lot. It's saying with all like the HD remakes and the reissuing and
Yeah.
how popular it is at the moment is if it isn't broke, don't
Don't
fix it.
fix it. Yeah. As you mentioned, Duck Hunt, Battletoads,
Oh god, yeah,
awesome. Bionic Commando,
yeah, the original one.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
hard as fuck.
Yeah.
Mega Man, once again, hard as
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah.
Bloody Capcom. And Double Dragon. You know, some amazing games.
Which later on down the line teamed up with Battletoads.
It's weird, and that comes full circle.
Yeah. What it lacked in like power and great graphics and everything, it made up for with like the imagination and
Absolutely.
the variety of titles. It's the first console I think that had such a big range of
Absolutely, yeah.
different games and quality games, not just sort of cheap shit. It had like proper developers behind it.
So, the year after the NES came out, very popular games console. It did great things for video games. Year after that, Sega Master System comes out,
Yeah, Sega, another Japanese company,
Absolutely,
wanting a slice of that market.
and the Master System, once again, another 8-bit wonder. It had some
Yeah.
very, very cool games on it. I mean, let's just
Yeah.
list some of them off. I mean, Alex Kidd.
Oh, who was back then the mascot of Sega before
Yeah,
the little blue thing came along.
yeah. So Alex Kidd, awesome. Sonic the Hedgehog, obviously,
Yeah,
as you're
yeah.
kind of mentioning. Yeah, I mean,
He came a little bit later, but no, all Sega systems have Sonic, just like all Nintendo systems have Mario.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it was kind of the beginning of, I think, quite a long rivalry between Sega and Nintendo.
in games like puzzly type games, we're good on our system. Columns, for example.
Columns, again, trying to sort of get into that sort of Tetris market
Yeah,
that you
once
got
again,
on stuff like the NES.
You
and-
can add that on the NES, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
There were a lot of direct comparisons.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be similar games on both systems,
systems.
comparable. So a lot of, I wouldn't say ripping each other off, but definitely heavily inspired.
Heavily inspired
by
yes.
each other.
That's the best way of putting it.
Yeah,
That's what the lawyer said. Desert Strike was out for the Master System.
yeah.
Very, very fun game. Ghouls and Ghosts and
Well, Ghouls and Ghosts was also on NES
Also,
as well.
yeah,
but yeah, it also had third-party multi-platform titles and stuff,
Yeah.
and which back then wasn't such a big thing
No.
because everybody and anybody before
mm,
the 8-bit console could program for anything.
Yeah.
But it's I think the NES and the Master System is kind of like the dawn of exclusivity.
in my personal opinion, one of
In my opinion, I think as well.
one of my favourite consoles of all time, the console I spent the most time playing on ever, has to be the Sega Mega Drive.
Or if you're from across the pond, the Genesis.
Indeed, obviously. 16-bit we're now talking here.
Yeah.
Up in the game a little bit here. Came out in 1988, I think, in Japan. It took a little while for it to come to Europe.
Yes,
A year or so later.
yeah, about 89, 90.
Yeah, I mean, we're still
Late
talking
89,
16-bit
90s,
cartridges, no load times. All good stuff. It wasn't the first ever 16-bit console. I think the first one, which came out, I think, a year before, was the NEC's TurboGrafx 16. First ever 16-bit console. Then Sega were like, "Look, we can do that." So, and the best thing about the Mega Drive was that Sega had a lot of great arcade titles that looked amazing, and
Yeah.
until the 16-bit era, you weren't really able to replicate that in the home. Not with 8-bit, it just didn't really translate that well. But with 16-bit, you get very near perfect arcade quality in your own home.
The jumping graphics then, I think, was the first thing.
Massive.
It's continued from generation to generation.
Absolutely.
Just being a big thing. But no, it was the Mega Drive. I remember playing it. First game I ever played on it was, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, same here.
And thinking, wow.
Yeah.
Just looking at everything, you could see all the details and everything. I mean, you look back on it now,
yeah,
not so much, but at the time, it was pretty much perfect.
Well, I've got fond memories of playing a lot of different Mega Drive games. Altered Beast.
Yeah.
Possibly one of my favourite games for the Mega Drive. Or / Genesis, depending on where you're from, but Old Beast is classic. Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
Once again, I sunk a lot of time into Streets of Rage.
All sort of side-scrolling beat-em-ups and stuff.
We're great. We're absolutely amazing.
Because you had Golden Axe, which was made by the same team that did Altered Beast and all that as well. And again, they're sort of arcade ports, but
they were so good.
Yeah, the Mega Drive was much
solid.
better at the arcade ports.
When I think Mortal Kombat, I think of, I mean, obviously it was out on other consoles, but I mean, it even came out on the Master System, and it looked choppy as fuck. But like, the 16-bit, the Mega Drive / Genesis version of Mortal Kombat, to me, is probably the ultimate version.
Yeah.
And it just absolutely tons of fun. And I remember sinking a lot of hours into that. What else?
I think mostly because we were too young to play it in the arcades at the time.
So, I mean, obviously, you had Sonic 2.
Yeah.
Once again, just shows what you can do with time and, with a decent development cycle.
I used to love Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Earthworm Jim, just so much. It's just one of those games that's just so comical.
It kind of opened us up to alternative humour.
Yeah.
Flashback,
which graphically is just like totally different to anything else that was available on the Mega Drive at the time.
It looked and played more like a Commodore 64 kind of PC style game.
Yeah,
I think, but they worked with that. They tried to add sort of an element of 3D to it, and it had that sort of sense of adventure and depth and everything, which kind of appealed to me in a way that carried on throughout my entire sort of gaming history. As it was another game which had a huge impact on me, which kind of introduced me to RPGs, was the Shining Force series.
Yes, I remember you playing a hell of a lot.
I would spend months and months and months playing the Shining Force games, and in some ways, Shining Force 2, it's all your fault. If it wasn't for that game, I would not be the gamer that I am today, and like the sorts of games that I do.
True.
So
it's responsible for quite a lot.
Yeah, it has a lot to answer for.
The Mega Drive for me actually got me into the kind of games I'm into now, kind of the more extreme, more violent, kind of more adult kind of titles that in some ways some of them slipped through the net, and there wasn't really so much a rating system to begin with.
No.
But so games like, I mean, it's probably one of the shittiest games ever, but I have a lot of fun playing Predator 2 from the Mega Drive.
That.
And it's one of the weirdest games because it's like, it's for a start off, the music is way too happy for a game like that where you're shooting drug dealers in the face. It kind of very loosely tied into the actual movie, very loosely. It kind of had element like here's the street scene, and here's the bit on the rooftop, and here's the slaughterhouse, and here's the alien ship, and it kind of it was quite you can look at it now and go, my god, that's hilarious, but at the time I was playing that was like some bloody gory violence, and it was so much fun.
Can I just ask you, how many times did you actually see the Predator?
Yeah, not too many. I remember playing the Splatterhouse 2 on
Yeah.
the Mega Drive, and how much fun that was, and how visceral and gory and fucked up that game was.
And because it was a game, people thought, "Oh, it's a game; it's for kids." So
No
we
problem.
were
You can, yeah,
allowed
sure, you can
to.
buy that.
Yeah, and we probably shouldn't.
True. All right.
I was thinking about it. Splatterhouse probably has quite a lot to answer for you and your taste.
Indeed, I really enjoyed the remake recently.
Yeah.
It wasn't the greatest game ever, but it's kind of cool. So obviously Sega having a great time with the Mega Drive, putting out some fantastic games. You know, great arcade ports, games that looked amazing in the home. You know, home console never looked so good.
No.
Obviously, they kind of went straight for Nintendo, and Nintendo had to retaliate somehow. So to compete with Sega, Nintendo basically released the Super Nintendo in the same system, or SNES, as we all like to call it, in 1990.
Yeah,
So,
and that's
you know,
kind of when the console wars really sort of heated up.
Yeah, both 16-bit consoles, both pretty much graphically very, very similar.
You had like Super Mario Bros. 3, which could be. You also had Super Mario World, which was pretty much, for all intents and purposes, Mario Bros. 4.
Yeah.
And, you know, graphically, it was just so crisp and so clear, and had great music.
We're not looking back now so much,
No,
but you know, yeah.
But, you know, compared to then, even compared to most Mega Drive games, it
Yeah.
was really sort of solid and bright and colourful. It was good. But I also remember other things. It's like, I'm a big fan of the Metroidvania style games, and obviously it was Super Metroid and Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania on there, which kind of opened that up. They were I had both of those on the SNES and played through them, and again, they're kind of responsible for some of my gaming choices in recent history.
Excellent.
I love those. Also, obviously, it's when I was first introduced to the Legend of Zelda series, which is A Link to the Past, which I think is probably one of the most beloved games on the SNES ever.
So, as part of the Sega's retaliation, they figured the answer was not to bring out a new console altogether, because obviously the Mega Drive had a really, really healthy life cycle, great titles and stuff.
And it's
kind
good
of
sort
to
of
build
install-based,
on
so,
that. Yeah, exactly. With a CD add-on, which seemed to be kind of a big thing.
It was kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah. Basically, they came out with the Mega CD, or Sega CD, if you were stateside. And so, I mean, the thing that sucked about it was that it didn't increase the power of the actual console itself.
No.
It was still a 16-bit console. All it really allowed for is more storage, and so you could have longer games, bigger games, but graphically and sound-wise, obviously, there could be improvements. You've got CD quality sound there, but you know, there's no real up in performance.
No, and it kind of spawned a whole sort of genre of FMV,
full motion video, interactive, and I'm going to prattle some of them off because I owned the Mega CD. I still own it, and I still have quite a few of these games knocking around. So I mean, Tomcat Alley is probably one of the games that I got with it, and I only remember getting so far in that game because it was so bloody frustrating. But I mean, I kind of think at the time when I first got it, I was like, "Oh, this is amazing," but you know, you look at it now, it just looks god awful. Because like when you can imagine full motion video, but using the 16-bit hardware, it just looks so disgustingly awful. And so there's a slew of these games, like you said, Tomcat Alley, Cobra Command, which was I actually think that was more kind of slightly animated than it was actually photorealistic. But Road Avenger was another one that was definitely an anime. That was quite a cool game though.
I remember that looking
awesome.
nice. That kind of benefited from the
so that's an example of something that works.
Sewer Shark was another one I remember you playing.
Sewer Shark, don't knock it. I think that was made by Sony actually. So Sewer Shark, that's but that brings back some memories. Jesus, I remember playing that. That was kind of a fucking crazy ass game. But
I remember sitting there for hours when you were trying to like play through it and getting so frustrated.
It's a painful experience. But I think the ultimate game that from the full motion video
I know it's coming
era of Night Trap.
Yes.
Still today, I think it's one of the best games ever made. I want a Night Trap remake so bad, so bad.
This is the thing. I remember not so long ago now, maybe only a few years ago, going over to your house and you'd fished out the Mega CD and
Night Trap, and I played through Night Trap.
And we sat there and we had a marathon session, trying to get everything, trying to do it all.
So difficult. Yeah, there's walkthroughs if you still own the game and like, you know, but Night Trap, and it's the game that is kind of responsible for us having a rating system for video games. Right?
Yeah,
which is fucked up, huh? Probably the best game though for that console was Sonic CD.
Yeah, it kind of utilised it's what other games could have been. It didn't rely heavily on the FMV. Obviously, it had a really nice video opening to it.
Yeah,
but it was a Sonic game, just bigger, more scopes,
so,
more stuff there going on. And I remember playing through that and thinking, yes,
that's such an awesome game. So we've talked a lot already about a lot of consoles, a lot of games. So we've got the halfway mark now. So we want to thank you very much for watching. We're going to talk a lot more about what happens kind of next as far as consoles, the console wars,
32-bit and beyond.
Indeed, and come back next week and download that because it's going to be fucking awesome. Thanks very much for watching. Please check out our website www.games4allpodcast.com. Check out the audio podcast. New episodes up every Friday.
Without fail. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Without fail, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And also check out our good friends at undergroundgeeknetwork.com. They've got a really cool podcast. Check them out. So thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed what we've talked about so far as the retro stuff goes. And we're going to be back with part 2 of our Games4all Extra Retro Special next week. Thank you and goodbye.